Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Kogi State House of Assembly lawmakers begin impeachment process against State Deputy Governor Simon Achuba over media utterances, as Mr. Achuba insists he is unruffled. Police authorities accuse soldiers of killing 3 police officers and a civilian, as well as setting free a high-profile kidnapper in Taraba State. Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency raises alarm, warns Nigerians to expect heavy rains and heavy flooding next month. And U.S. President Donald Trump begins visit to sites of 2 mass shootings in Ohio and Texas, where at least 31 people were killed for alleged hate crime. For more information on all our top stories, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com. youtube.com/channels web has all our shows. And let's check some of the stories you sent in through our eyewitness portal, beginning with a video from Iwo Road in Ibadan, your state capital, showing a gridlock which our eyewitness reporter says lasted for close to 3 hours. According to him, the lockdown left commuters stranded. The journey that should have taken about 4 hours ended up taking over 8 hours. He blames the gridlock on motorists driving against traffic, and it took the intervention of soldiers to ease the flow of traffic in that area. And next is this photo from Ayetoro in Ilaje local government area. You see there on your screen in Ondo State, showing the body of water which our eyewitness reporter describes as sea encroachment. He's asking the state government to do something very fast about this before it gets worse. And finally, this image from Bende in Abia State. Our eyewitness reporter has described this road in Poor State as a death trap, which of course inhibits free flow of traffic along Arochukwu, Ohafia, and other neighboring communities in Abia. He wants the federal government to fix it immediately. Well, thank you for sending in your stories. We hope that you keep them coming. The Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NIHSA, is predicting more floods next month. This perhaps is a signal to those living in flood-prone areas across the country. Well, according to the agency, the coming floods will be due to overflowing of rivers as well as coastal flooding as the nation approaches its peak raining season. The Hydrological Services Agency is now asking states and local governments in the country to remove structures built within floodplains, clear blocked drainages and waterways. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi tells us more.
Flood, a term which in recent times Nigerians have come to be familiar with. From Lagos to Kogi, Edo and even the Federal Capital Territory. By the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, NISA's annual flood outlook, released in April 2019, 353 local governments across 30 states in the country were expected to experience flooding this year. This probably explains the flood cases so far experienced in about 15 states.
Thank you very much.
But then there's the question of why the loss of lives and property, despite the warnings from NISA.
Stakeholders, especially individuals and state governments, have not taken precautions. What does NISA expect from such stakeholders? We owe ourselves the duty to clean wherever we are. We expect states to have proper building plans. Don't allocate land to people to build within flood-prone areas or flood channels.
Describing the floods as avoidable, NISA warns that it will get worse as the nation approaches its peak raining season.
The upper catchment of the Niger Basin is made up of 9 countries. The flood coming from these countries are expected to arrive in Nigeria in the next 1 month. That is when river flooding will really be, take its toll if actions are not taken. River flooding as well as coastal flooding are expected to come into play as the nation approaches the peak of rainy season. Therefore, states and local governments should endeavor to remove the structures built within the floodplains, clear block drainages, covers, and waterways.
This perhaps is the right time for states to put the ecological fund to good use and avert impending danger, and also a good time for relevant agencies to enlighten the public on how to act when confronted by flood. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the governor of Imo State, Emeka Ihedioha, has asked professionals in Imo State to come up with a workable plan to resolve the flooding challenge in the state, with particular attention on Owerri, the state capital. The professionals blame the flood menace on neglect of the original Owerri master plan by previous administrations, building of illegal structures and waterways, illegal sand mining and indiscriminate refuse dumping. Among their immediate solutions are the interconnection of all the 62 drainage channels in the state capital, the listen of lakes, Waiberi, and dredging of the Otamiri-Nwori discharge point. The governor has now set up a steering committee to harmonize the positions and recommendations with a promise to providing necessary support to fight flood.
What we plan to do is to have a task team arising from all these presentations. We can't have everybody as part of the task team. Part of the responsibility of this task team would be to, within a week, you would have come to us and given us a proper roadmap, collective roadmap by the various institutions, various professional bodies, and that means these reports, you all have copies of it. So you have the reports, you consolidate the reports, and you make it simpler for us. You also must be bold enough to tell us actions that must be taken if we must solve the flooding problems.
We're now being joined on the news at 10 by Professor Emmanuel Oladipo. As a climatologist, is also with the Department of Geography, University of Lagos, is here to discuss the warning bells from the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, warning Nigerians to actually expect heavy rains and heavy flooding next month. Professor Oladipo, thank you very much for joining us on the news at 10. If you ask me, this is quite frightening and disturbing. The fresh warning is coming after NISA actually gave a similar warning earlier this year. That was in April. But this time the warning is that floods will happen because the rivers Benue and Niger will overflow. Is there anything at all that the government can do to avert a disaster?
Thank you very much, Anne. There's a lot government can do, but it needs to be done prior to the occurrence of this floods. That's where the challenge is. Every year, we know that the months of July, August, and September are the rainiest months in the whole of Nigeria. In many parts of northern Nigeria in particular, nearly 60% of the rain for the year are received in August, which means a lot of water will flow into River Niger and River Benue. A peculiar situation is that of Niger, because Niger River flows through 9 countries before it gets to Nigeria. So all the river waters coming from Mali, Niger, Burkina, all the rest are coming into Nigeria at this time. So towards the end of this month, a lot of the water will have arrived, which will cause a lot of the disaster that might take place if care is not taken.
And talking about disasters that might take place, the better part of 2019 has been flooding in almost all parts of the country, which has led to loss of lives. What do you think can be done this time to reduce the impact of this flood when they come?
The first thing is to recognize that flood is a natural phenomenon that accompanies humanity, right from its history. For those of us who are Christian, you hear about Noah's flood. That's what it was. So since humanity had been created, flood was part of the things that had been part of us. Therefore, we must accept that from year to year, from time to time, flood will occur. The particular area that it be hit, the intensity and the magnitude will not be known. But what is known is that the impact of global warming now is making the occurrence, the intensity, and the frequency of these floods to be more intense and more frequent than before. So we have to accept that. If we accept that, then we all have to agree on what to do about it.
Well, the agency boss said something about the government at all levels did not take the earlier warning seriously. He talked about this. What do you think can be done differently this time? Do you think that the attitude can change this time?
The agency is doing its job very well, and I'm really happy that every time, in collaboration with the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, they bring out a lot of this focus. But the warning is just a precaution. It cannot really solve the problem, because the things we are talking about, by this time, the people that are already on these channels, they are there. Unless you remove their hopes, they cannot. So we have to really do a long-term plan. It's not enough to talk to the states. The government of Nigeria must bring all the states together to develop a plan of action that can help us to reduce the impact of this flood, either from the river or from the flash flood that occurs the time that carry some of these children in the university away, or the urban-induced flood, in which a lot of the drainages have been blocked by all kinds of nonsense we throw into them, and then as soon as it rains, the water comes. So we need a long-term precautionary plan that can help us to address both at the federal and the state and even at the local government level. Secondly, we need to let people know that they are playing with danger. Most of these things, look at those 4 children that got their lives gone the other time. So most of these things, we have to really accept that the danger of being close to some of these flood drains is very important.
Thank you.
And we'll be taking action to reduce them.
We hope the action is taken as soon as possible. Thank you very much, Professor Emmanuel Ibidapo. He's a climatologist, and Oladipo. He's a climatologist, and he also works with the Department of Geography, University of Lagos. Thank you for your time on News at 10. And when the News at 10 returns, the U.S. President Donald Trump begins visit to sites of 2 mass shootings where at least 31 people were killed for alleged hate crime. That and more from the international scene and around the world in 5. Join us again.